Let's go.
Hi, everybody. This is Elena from Cross Cultural Development, and you are listening to Bending Culture Podcast, the show where we master the art of cross-cultural collaboration and where the professionals learn how to grow and thrive in the multicultural world we live and work in today, and how to become the real global game changers. Welcome. Today's episode is different. I do not have a guest on the show today, and for the coming 20, 30 minutes, I will be the one who will do the talking. And though I love talking, it feels a little bit like I'm stepping out of my comfort zone right now. You know, talking for yourself for like long period of time, that is a challenge even for me. I have a friend who always says, I'm doing it 2 times, the first and the last. And that is a little bit how I feel right now. But I'm open. Growth begins outside of the comfort zone. So when I have a good reason, I will maybe try it again. And for today, I think I have a good reason. I now put on air 5 episodes, and I recorded even a bit more. And at this point, I feel like I need to share with you the why behind starting the podcast. And the moment I say that, I realize that there will be people, there will be listeners who are not gonna find this episode as interesting. Not only because they, as individuals, do not care about the why of Elena, but also because the cultures look at why in a different way and they find why interesting or non-interesting. Like Northern European cultures, including the Netherlands, the country I live in, as well as Anglo-Saxon cultures, they care much more about the how, about the application, and much less about the principles, about the background, about the why. So what does it mean practically? That means that as long as I'm making an interesting podcast where the people can learn something from, practical, and they enjoy listening to me, the audience from these countries will listen to me. Me, being Russian, I love the why. I am very interested in the arguments and the history on how things came to existence. As many people from Eastern and South Europe. So I actually counting, guys, on you to listen to me today. But why do I think it's important to stand still about this why versus how and to understand the difference? Because this approach, this why versus how, is crucial in persuading people to support us as leaders, to get behind the idea, to get behind a product for our clients, for example, a work method, a goal that we are setting. We all understand that persuading people is an important task of a leader. It is challenging even with a team who is speaking the same language and coming from the same country. But when you are talking to an international bunch of people and trying to convince them, to get them on your side, to take them and move together in the same direction, you need to be able to be effective in both approaches, to understand the interesting why and to show how. And do you know how many leaders I meet who know the difference and actually applied this difference in their work? Now, not so many. There are some leaders who are really culturally sensitive, so they intuitively do that, but still I can count them on one hand. And that is why I started this podcast, to increase this number. Everyone I speak to understand that we all different as individuals. We still want people to think, feel, and act as us, as this is the only right way, right? But we do understand the diversity of us as human beings. But we often miss a deeper layer. A layer that is so ingrained in our subconsciousness that we actually don't realize that we have these beliefs, that we have these convictions, that we have shown these behaviors. And that is this layer, this deeper layer, is our cultural background. The culture we come from, and that is how I see it, determines the range of behaviors and beliefs from less to the most, right? From weak to very strong beliefs, but it is the same belief. And each individual make a choice within this range. So the choice defines our individual differences, but we still are choosing, and that we don't know that we're doing that. We still are choosing from a certain scale, from a certain range. Now, I live in the Netherlands, and I often hear Dutch people say, "Oh, Elena, how can you talk about one Dutch culture when people in the North are so different in the way they think and the way they behave than people in the South, and they are different from people in the West, and they are different from people in the East, and the middle is also doing it differently. How can you talk about one Dutch culture?" Yeah, totally true. But all of these Dutch people, no matter where they're living, are still thinking and acting in the Dutch cultural way, within the Dutch borders, so to speak. Now, to give an example, people in the north of the Netherlands, they pride themselves for their no-nonsense and direct communication style, especially when they compare themselves to the people in the south, like in Limburg, for example, the most southern province of the country. And though the way they communicate in the north are extremely direct, and the south way of communication is still direct, but not that extreme, they see the differences instead of similarities. But when we just move a couple of kilometers to the south, we move to Belgium, we cross the Dutch border of direct communication, and we start to hear how layered, nuanced, not direct, the way people in Belgium communicate. So that means that the Dutch way of communication includes the extreme directors of the north and less extreme directors of the south. And when we inside this range, we only can see the differences, but we don't see what is common to both of us, to both of communicational styles. We don't see the wholeness. We see the wholeness and the similarities we need to see only when we are outside of our range. When you're in the picture, you don't see the frame. So that is why it is so important to understand that culture influences our perception, what we see. It influences our cognition, what we think, and it influences our actions, what we do. And when we understand that, we take the first step in creating cultural awareness. And this is my first reason to start this podcast. The second reason is that I really, really want to play a small and humble role in helping in contributing to being more open to recognize, understand, and accept people from different countries. And not only say that, but also understand that they see the world differently. And that is not good or bad. It is just different. Because I live this cultural diversity every day for 30 years. And there are beautiful moments in it, but there are also less beautiful moments of it. We often see this difference as something annoying. There's something foreign, something frustrating, something that really stands in the way of how we want to work, how we can be as a team organization, a society. And when we get over it and accept the differences as positive things, only then we can really talk about inclusion. I have a love-hate relationship with the word inclusion because as a very, very important term, it is also something that has become a buzzword lately, and something that people have difficulty to understand and actually also difficulty to connect with because it's so huge and ununderstandable. So I make it a little bit more practical in a way I see it in my daily work. What I see that when we understand the differences, when we accept those differences, and when we know how to address this difference, our teams, our organization will be more successful. Period. It will lead to better communication as we start to listen to each other better and to understand each other better. Due to this better communication, the trust within the organization will grow. The number of conflicts goes down. Creativity arises and new solutions are coming forward which bring better results. We see higher level of collaboration within the teams. And guys, aren't this the thing that we really want as leaders and entrepreneurs to have with our teams, with our clients? I just finished a program in a multicultural organization, and the goal of the program was to improve the effectiveness of communication, and as a part of it, to establish common language. And I think it's very, very funny. And because the most controversial word we came across when we are building this common language was the word compliment. Yes, I know. I didn't expect it either. When we talk about such a layered word as respect, you know that this one will be difficult. We all want respect, but we all understand the meaning of respect in a different way. And I will get to the compliment in a second, but what I also learned about respect that I really want to share it is that respect means to different cultures something different, right? So if you have 5 or 6 cultures within the organization, you have like 5, 6 definitions of how they understand respect. But what came up from this program is that the people from the same culture see and understand respect differently when it's on different layers. So what we accept from our subordinates, from our bosses, and from our peers, and what we see as respect coming from them can be different as well. So you have 5, 6 nationalities, several layers in the organization. So before you know it, you have like more than 20 versions of respect. That is why respect is very difficult word to take into the company values. That was something I prepared for. What I was not prepared for is how differently, culturally differently, we look at the praise and compliment. Dutch management of the company was really so proud of how complimentary they were operating. While the employees coming from South and Eastern Europe told me that there is no place in this company for a praise or a compliment. Somebody even said to me, we haven't heard a compliment here in never. So understanding that this Dutch good job, while you are passing each other in a hall, is not taken as compliment by your employees. It was a very long conversation we had with the Dutch management about it, because it was really tough for them to comprehend, to understand what the employees are actually expecting for them in this praise form, in this compliment from. But compliments to the, to the Dutch manager of the company, they were really willing to understand. They were really willing to make a difference. So we even had a very good laugh at the idea that if we do not create awareness on the topic, we can go as much as see the absence of open critics as a compliment. Yeah, you're still working here, right? So what more do you want? That is already a compliment to you. And maybe now you are thinking, Lena, come on. Are you kidding me? Can compliment make a difference? No, guys, maybe not. But I do believe that we should never underestimate the power of kind words said with conviction and in the right moment. I don't see compliment as a huge cultural change. It's the first step in a good direction. Because change is all about the small steps in creating new behavior, right? Nobody makes quantum leaps in one training or in one day. So it's about starting. It's about starting this understanding of each other. Another big issue, what I see, is that we expect people from different countries to assimilate and to adopt to our cultural way in like this, very quickly. We expect a Turkish boy born in the Netherlands to be more Dutch. And we are surprised and even frustrated if he is not showing enough of typical Dutch behavior. We expect a Polish employee after promotion to be an egalitarian Dutch-style leader because he's for 2 years in the Netherlands and working for the company. And we are really taken aback by how hierarchical he starts to operate when he is promoted. Though people are really assimilating, we need to understand that our cultural beliefs are so deep in our subconsciousness that just being born in a country or living for several years in the country do not go that deep. It just cannot go that deep. Ransomware, these cultural beliefs can go to 4 generations back. So if we take this Turkish boy, it will be his grandchildren who will be Dutch in their mindset and in their behavior. Now, let's take me as example. I live in the Netherlands for 30 years. And knowing what I know now, I would never be a kind of leader I was 20 years ago. And it's really difficult for me to talk about it because when I think about it, it's not the most proud period of my life and of my career. But my leadership style was more a drill surgeon than a leadership style. It was so hard that a Dutch team member once came to me and told that he could not sleep at night because he was so upset by the way I talked to my team. You know, what even maybe worse is that I thought that it was not me or my leadership style. It was him being softy. As I said, I'm not proud of it, but I didn't know better. I came from the culture who valued this drill sergeant leadership style. And today, though I will never be a leader I was then, I still respect a leader who is able to take the decisive actions, who is strong, who is capable of taking decisions which are unpopular and stick to them. So what I'm trying to say is, let's not try to expect from our multicultural teams to lose their colors. my suggestion to all organizations I work with, look at the difference. Take the best practices and create your own culture. The culture where everyone is valued and appreciated, and where everyone understands why these behaviors, why these patterns are taken on within a team. That is what I wanted to share with you today. I always ask my guests to give some practical tips to the people who are listening, and so that they can implement these tips right away. I'm thinking right now what my tip can be, and cannot do better than to say, have a good look in the mirror and figure out for yourself what cultural biases you might have. And then take them and talk about them to the people with different cultural backgrounds. That is the only way to create cultural awareness. And that is the only starting point on that. Guys, if my why connected with you, if it's resonated with you, and if you want to learn more and to become more confident in navigating the multicultural landscape, join me in 2 weeks. I will have a new inspiring guest then, and there will be more tips and more insights on the new episode of Bended Culture Podcast. And as you know, I'm just starting now on my quest to create multicultural awareness, to make our society, our organizations, our team more successful and more diverse. And your support means the world. So please, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, share this episode with a fellow global game changer who comes from the country, who appreciates the why behind the idea, behind the podcast. Until I see you again, this is Elena from Cross Cultural Development. And I urge you to keep bending culture together to shape a thriving, inclusive business world. Thank you, and I see you next time.